Hey, on today's video, I'm going to show you how to clean and reseason the outside of your Smokeslinger pit. So one of the most frequently asked questions I get is, how do I maintain the outside appearance of my Smokeslinger pit, especially if you're going to keep it outside most of the time? My first recommendation is keep it inside, but if you don't have that luxury, don't worry, because I'm going to cover that on today's video. So on today's video, I'm going to show you how to take care of that and remove it in a non-abrasive way so that you don't ruin the appearance of the mill scale, which is what we want to see on your pit, and then the boiled linseed oil finish. So stay tuned here, let's get right into it. Okay, let's start first off with a few things that you're going to need in order to do this safely and easily. So first of all, I never do this without some kind of nitrile gloves on. During the cleaning process, you just don't want to get all of it all over you. You know, it's just like greasy and dirty and stuff like that. But most of all, whenever you get into the final stages of reseasoning this pit, if you look at my other videos on the subject, you'll notice that we use boiled linseed oil. Now, the great debate is boiled linseed oil safe? For context, we're working on the outside of your pit. If you're leaving this pit outside all the time anyway, there's animals crawling on it, there's coons licking all the grease off of it, there's birds crapping on it, so it's not a big deal. Boiled linseed is no more toxic than all of the things aforementioned. Don't worry about what oil you're using. A lot of people want to use a food safe oil, and that's totally okay. Bear in mind, we're doing this on the outside of your pit. You might have frequent glove changes, and so if that's the case, you're going to want to have some liners on of some kind. I prefer these because I can use them whenever I'm trying to use, like if I'm picking up a hot pan, I put these gloves on and then I put my nitrile gloves on over the top of these. It's also gonna, because your hands are gonna get sweaty when you're doing this, whenever it comes time to put the oil on, the boiled linseed oil, we're gonna use a microfiber towel. I prefer this microfiber towel because if I'm wiping on here, I don't wanna leave a bunch of lint in the oil. Otherwise, you're gonna have to deal with that lint if you use like a terry cloth towel or something like that. Now, for getting rid of the surface, like the grime and any like buildup of like the drips running down the face of the cooker where there's been like sauce or food grease dripping down and seasoning and stuff like that, you're gonna have to have something that you can kind of scrub on that a little bit. Now, before we get too deep into scrubbing, I wanted to clarify another reason why I prefer to use boiled linseed oil is because it'll hide a lot of imperfections. This stuff has a natural bronze finish to it, and so the more you cook with it, the hotter it gets, the darker the finish gets, but it doesn't go black like an iron skillet will if you use PAM. So we can hide a lot of the imperfections just by using boiled linseed oil. Now, when it comes into stuff like this surface rust here on this weld seam or just on the front of it, I don't want to get too abrasive. If you go right for like a Brillo pad or some kind of Scotch-Brite or something like that, you're gonna risk rubbing off some of this mill scale if you get too deep into it. So what I like to use is like very stiff bristle nylon brushes. This one here is super short. Usually the shorter the bristles, the more stiff they are. This little shop broom, I use this quite a bit. It's got a whole, like a dense layer of that same heavy bristle like that. And what you can do is just almost pretend like you're using it like sandpaper. If you've got straight up like buildup on the cooker, like sometimes I see people use PAM when they first do their cooker, when they first season it. PAM builds up very, very thick. Like I've seen it as thick as a 1/16 of an inch on the surface. And the problem with vegetable oil, especially aerosol cans like PAM or some kind of cooking spray, is that it builds up too thick. It comes out, it's sort of atomized, but it's actually pretty big like globs that come out of the can as you're spraying it, and it has a tendency to build up. Most people don't follow up by wiping it off with a towel, like I'm gonna show you here in a little bit with the boiled linseed oil. You wanna have a really thin coating. So what happens is if it's too thick, you're gonna have to scrape it off somehow. And I'm gonna show you how to use like a little, this is an 1.5 or 2 inch wide drywall scraper. That's like a really easy tool. It's not too sharp. You're not going to gouge anything. It's pretty flexible on the blade, so you can bend it around a little bit. So that's a really good tool. Now, if you get into something that you absolutely want to get it off and the other tools I've mentioned so far don't really do the job, you could go to a stainless steel wire brush. Now, something to think about on this is if you start on with this, it's likely going to get right down to the bare metal, all the way down to the mill scale. So I would use this at the last resort. Another thing to keep in mind is that with these wire bristles, anytime you're around a cooker with food and stuff like that, you really got to be careful so that these bristles don't break off and get stuck to a cooking grate or something like that. That can actually get in somebody's food, and then that's a whole nother deal, trip to the ER, the whole bit. So I try to avoid using any kind of wire brush or stainless steel bristles anytime I can. I try to avoid that. If I do that, then I wind up doing another clean on the cooking grate or whatever it is so that I can ensure there's no bristles stuck there. Okay, one thing to note, as your pit sits with grease and especially food grease and drippings like sauce or juices from meat, the seasonings are pretty caustic as they get on the surface of material. And so one thing I always say is that a pit dies from the inside out. And the reason I say that is because that's where all the render happens and stuff like that. The outside doesn't deteriorate nearly as quick as the inside does. And so what'll happen is this stuff will start pitting the material. So imagine salt on vehicles causes a lot of rust as you're driving down the road in the winter. If you've ever been in a climate where there was a lot of snow and ice, vehicles, the farther north you go, the more of them have body rust and stuff like that underneath of them after a period of time. Same thing on your cooker. As super salty barbecue juices start dripping on the face of a cooker, you don't take care of it, then you start getting some pitting and stuff. So there may be some stuff that you can't get out, and that's okay because the oil's gonna cover that up, but you wanna stay in front of it as best as you can. So we're gonna go ahead and try to take care of some of these dripping spots right here. When we're building these smokers at the shop, we do scrape the entire pit. We're looking for any kind of welding debris that might be on there, anti-spatter spray, stuff like that we put on these pits, and we're cleaning them off and then we wipe them down with acetone. So there's always gonna be something on there, but it's totally okay to scrape like this. You shouldn't hurt anything. What I'm doing here is I'm getting down on the top of this lip right here. So now, once you get that done, you can take your nylon bristle brush and you can start to kind of wipe that in. What's gonna happen is that's gonna blend this material back. So now we're just gonna oil that up. Whenever you're oiling your pit back up, basically the cautionary tale about linseed oil is that this stuff does have like mineral spirits and some other additives. And what'll happen is as it sits in the sun, if it's all bunched up in a knot like this, it will spontaneously combust. So I'm out here in a spot where it's safe and everything. So what I'll do whenever I'm done, I'll lay this thing wide open flat on the ground until it completely dries. What happens is as long as it's wadded, the heat inside this, it just like amplifies the heat. And eventually it will start smoking. I know because it happened in the bed of my truck. I mostly tell you that because you want to make sure not wad this up and throw it in your trash can or something. If you do any petroleum-based oil of any kind, even though this is like from, I think, flaxseed and some different like natural oils like that, it does have petroleum additives in it. So that's why you can't use it in a food safe application. It's why you shouldn't wad it up and throw it in the trash. So I only go into all that as deep as I went into it because it doesn't matter what video I'm doing. If I bring up the word boiled linseed oil, the haters are gonna find it. It's just an amazing thing. So if you ever talk about it on your channel, make sure to give the disclosure about how these things will just blow up in people's faces or whatever. I say that laughingly, it won't do that. Okay, here we go. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of this on your towel. Try not to get too wild because like I said, we want a thin coat, a thin coat. If your cooker's outside most of the time, if you put the thinnest possible coat on the material every cook, like at the beginning or the end or whatever you want to do, or whenever you clean your smoker, just really, really thin for the first few cooks. It'll last for, you'd be surprised how long it'll last like that. I've got stuff sitting out here that's been oil coated like this that just lasts forever and never gets rusty. So, but really thin. If you can see oil on the surface, it's too thick. You should wipe it off with another towel. Another reason why we want to go super, super thin is because it's going to help this oil to polymerize faster when we light the pit. So we're going to bring this cooker up to about 450 degrees, and that's when this is going to start smoking and stuff, and that's when it's going to seal tightly. It's going to like completely dry, cure, polymerize, whatever you want to call it. Another observation I made, because I've done quite a few of these videos like this about linseed oil. Another observation I made was that the more you try to detail something out and simplify it so people don't get freaked out and they can understand about it, there's always some guy in the comments that's going to say, it doesn't cure, it dries. It doesn't dry, it cures. And then you get this argument going. I don't really care, but it's kind of funny. Here's to the haters. I don't have no haters. You know, while I'm on the subject, I'm going to give a shout out real quick to a buddy in the Smokeslinger Pit Owners group, TD Price. If you guys don't know who he is, you should follow him. He's in the Smokeslinger Pit Owners group on Facebook. But the thing that I've learned from him is a magic eraser does wonders. He was using a magic eraser to keep his logo plate cleaned up. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna do the lid. I haven't done the lid yet. Surface of this lid has got a lot of dust. Sitting in my garage, we have a gravel road, so a lot of dust is around here. So I'm gonna clean the top of this off real quick with the nylon, show you how that works. So on the lid, I'm gonna use this other brush just because I got a bigger surface to cover. My biggest concern here is just to get the dust off, is pretty much what I'm after. This towel will take care of the rest of it, the towel with the oil on it. So we're just basically just gonna go side to side like this. We're trying not to scrub too hard, like there's some bird crap. I could get the scraper. Remember I told you bird crap on your cooker, that's what happens when you keep them outside. I mean, I don't know about you, but most of us cook outside. Okay guys, so as simple as that is, that's how you reseason the exterior of your Smokeslinger pit. Now if you got the mini, the full size, or even the Liberty 94, this practice is exactly the same on all of those pits. So the next step in this process is to go ahead and build a fire in your pit, whether it's the full size, the mini, or the Liberty 94 offset. Build a fire in it. You're gonna run it around 400 to 450 degrees, and you don't need to get hotter than that. There's no point in it. And then burn it for about an hour, 2 hours, something like that. Now, at the peak of that period of time, when you're heating this pit up and trying to polymerize the oil may still be a little bit wet and tacky. It's totally okay. What we're trying to do is get that stuff to smoke off and evaporate a little bit. The magic happens when you start to let that pit come back down to temperature. Then it's gonna start to cool off and it's gonna go ahead and set up. So don't like keep running it if you still feel a little bit of surface tack. Just give yourself an hour or two at that temperature and you'll be fine. And like I said, the lid, you're not gonna get it hot enough that the outside of this is gonna smoke off. There will also be some other pieces like the sides of this handle and stuff like that. If you use boiled linseed oil, it's gonna go ahead and do that by itself in the sun over time. If you use PAM or some kind of cooking oil or something like that, likely it'll never set up, which is another reason why we don't use that. Anyway, if you'd like to get a Smokeslinger for yourself, go to smokeslinger.com and check out all of our pits. We've got the full size, the mini, and the Liberty 94 offset smoker there. Now the price shows the prices, and you'll see a few of them are on sale right now as of 2025 summer. Those prices are good, hopefully until the end of the year. I don't see them going up anytime soon. However, those prices will be changing in the future. So be sure to go to the website and check out the prices. And also one more thing to note, there's a flat shipping price of $7.99 to your house if you check out on the website. However, fill out the quote form and get in touch with Dave or another member of our sales team. And what you'll find out is we can actually ship that pit cheaper than $7.99 about 90% of the time. So if you fill out that form and let us know your zip code, it's likely we can save you some money on shipping. And that goes direct to your house with liftgate service. You don't have to worry about anything. One more thing I'd like to invite you to do is join our private group on Facebook, the Smokeslinger Pit Owners Group. And on that group, you're gonna see a whole bunch of other people just like you that already own Smokeslinger pits. And there's no better group in the world to ask questions to. about how to use them and what they think of their pits. So anyway, Smokeslinger Pit Owners Group, there's also a link in the description. Be sure to check that out. Anyway, till next time, keep your smoke thin and blue, and we'll see you on the flip side.